Why is shipping moving to electronic bills of lading? For centuries, bills of lading have been the cornerstone of international trade, acknowledging the receipt of goods at the port of loading and serving as the document of title needed to claim the goods at the port of discharge. And while electronic bills of lading have been around for more than 25 years, much of the industry still clings on to paper. An approach that can be inefficient, costly, and prone to errors. But as global trade modernizes, it's time to ask, how does the traditional paper system compare to its electronic counterpart? Let's take a closer look at the journey of a paper bill of lading versus an electronic bill of lading. Imagine a shipment of iron ore from Port Hedland in Australia to Qingdao in China. First, the ship arrives at Port Hedland and loads the cargo. The master then signs the paper bill of lading, officially acknowledging that the cargo is on board. But this piece of paper has a long journey ahead. Because high-value bulk commodities like this are often financed under a letter of credit, the paper bill must first be sent to the seller's bank, in this case in London. Once the seller's bank receives the document, they meticulously check it against the letter of credit, a process that can take several days. Satisfied, the bank then sends the paper bill to the buyer's bank, which is located in Singapore. The buyer's bank also checks the document before finally passing it on to the buyer. And only with this physical paper in hand can the buyer arrange for the cargo to be discharged from the ship in China. But by the time the paper bill arrives, the ship may have been waiting at the port for days or even weeks, leading to costly delays and logistical headaches. And this scenario becomes even more complicated if the cargo is traded while the ship is en route. In such cases, the bill of lading needs to change hands multiple times as ownership of the cargo passes from one buyer to another. This adds even more steps to the process and increases the likelihood of delays. Each buyer introduces their own bank into the process, adding more layers of verification and further delaying the paper bill's journey. With every additional transaction, the likelihood of the paper bill arriving on time diminishes, increasing the risk of the cargo sitting idle at the port, incurring demurrage costs and disrupting supply chains. In many cases, the delay in receiving the original bill of lading forces parties to rely on a commercial workaround, the letter of indemnity or LOI. This document allows the ship owner to discharge the cargo without the original bill of lading in hand, based on a guarantee from the seller. While the industry has come to rely on this commercial workaround, it's important to understand that legally it constitutes a misdelivery of the cargo. The ship owner is discharging the cargo without the proper documentation, which carries significant legal and financial risks. Using an LOI requires a high degree of trust in your counterparties and meticulous due diligence. Even a small mistake or breakdown in trust can lead to costly disputes and legal complications. Now, let's look at the same shipment using an electronic bill of lading. The process starts the same way. The ship arrives, the cargo is loaded, and the master signs the bill. But instead of a physical document, the bill is signed electronically and is immediately transferred to the seller's bank in London. Because it's a digital document, the bank's checks are easier, faster, and more accurate. This allows the eBL to be verified and transferred swiftly from the seller's bank to the buyer's bank in Singapore. The buyer's bank completes its checks just as quickly, passing the eBL to the buyer almost in real time. The buyer, with the eBL in hand, is ready to discharge the cargo as soon as the ship arrives in China. No delays, no waiting, and no risky LOI workaround. The comparison is clear. While paper bills of lading require time-consuming manual handling and physical transportation, electronic bills of lading streamline the process, reducing delays, cutting costs, and minimizing the risk of errors. In an increasingly digital world, the efficiency and security of electronic bills of lading make them the smart choice for today's global trade. We know changing business practices is often challenging, so change management needs to be prioritized. Whether you're shipping iron ore, crude oil, grain, or any other bulk commodity, let's embrace the future of trade and make the switch to eBLs.